The Menu is directed by Mark Mylod and stars Ray Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, John Leguizamo, and among others. And in this story, it deals with a couple played by Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy that get invited to this island where they end up going to this, pretty much this very fancy five-star restaurant that's headed by Ray Fiennes' character, who's this master chef. And, well, if you've seen from the trailers, there's some things that go on throughout the night to where essentially they're in getting some pretty serious stuff that goes down to where it's basically having to survive. And I'll leave it there because there's some things I can't really go into detail without going into spoilers. But here's a little backstory. Now, this is a film that kind of came out of nowhere for me. I heard about it a couple months ago, seeing the trailers for it, and it got me really curious because it kind of looked like it was kind of doing like a cross between like a horror version of that movie Waiting a little bit, where it's basically dealing with like the with the restaurant industry and stuff. And it also kind of has like this kind of feeling like being secure on this island and stuff. And it reminds me a little bit of that movie called Hard Target, where essentially there's elements where characters are basically having to survive and they're throughout, and then eventually they get their comeuppance and stuff. It uses similar elements like that, in that, like you see in the scene where they basically give a head start and things like that. And so it's got me curious along with the cast itself, especially seeing Ray Fiennes playing this very intellectual, very sophisticated chef that wants to basically make the best of his meals with his customers and his crew and everything, and make it the best that he can. And having delight to basically make the perfect meal. And so, upon seeing the film, I can honestly say this is definitely one of the biggest surprises for me this year. I fucking love this movie a lot. I think this is one of those kind of movies that it's rare that you see a kind of movie that can not only blend a lot of good, certain intenseful moments, but also blend a lot of great satirical and comedy into it, because the movie plays really more like a satire of what we see on the food industry and a lot of other things that are commonly known in restaurants. And this, to me, I think really makes a good double feature with that movie that came out a couple years ago called The Hunt, in that there's social commentary that does it the right way while also playing into some really intenseful stuff throughout the movie that blends it all together in a good way. And to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were fantastic, especially Ray Fiennes. I've always admired the guy as an actor, and him always playing villainous type of roles, especially in the Harry Potter movies, and also, I haven't seen it, but I still really need to eventually. I have seen a little bit of his performance in Schindler's List, and I really need to still check that movie out, because every time I see him play a villain, it always makes me just see a lot of the intenseful stuff that he puts, especially when he can just have that really menacing look to people and stuff like that in movies. And so he was fantastic. And one of the other things I really enjoyed about his character was that there's layers to him that kind of unfolds as the movie goes along, and you kind of see a lot of what he's trying to do for why he put this whole situation together for the menu and things like that, for his customers and crew. And so I can't go into spoilers, but there's something that was very fascinating toward the end that happens that I thought that actually had a really good payoff to it with this character. And so I thought that was great. And then, of course, I also really enjoyed Anya Taylor-Joy. She's become one of my favorite actresses now, and she plays basically like kind of the eyes for the audience, where she's kind of more observant everything that's happening throughout the restaurant and stuff, and she's seeing some suspicious things. And out of the characters, she's the only one that seems like the one that's not very, getting into like any kind of trouble or anything like that, or has done like any kind of that doesn't really seem like she really has much of a purpose there, as you find out later on in the film. And she kind of sketches together some things along that you really do buy as it goes along with it. And I thought she was fantastic as usual. And I also really got to give it to Nicholas Hoult playing the kind of foodie that's obsessed with all the food and stuff. And there's some mystery to his character that when you find out later that I thought was pretty good revealing, that I won't give away, but it does make it really showcase a lot of what the characters and why all these characters are there to begin with in the film. And so he was excellent. And then one of the biggest surprises was John Leguizamo. I haven't seen him in a movie in a while, and it was good seeing him back on the big screen again. He plays kind of a washed-up kind of actor that's been trying to go there and with his assistant and everything. And I really did enjoy his character of how he's basically being a washed up actor and stuff. And they have this funny running joke where he was essentially in like a awful awful movie that he was in that didn't impress anybody. And then I also got to really appreciate the way the movie feels. It's like it's very secluded because it takes place primarily in this one restaurant area that all the attendants are at. But then one of the other things I really appreciate the most is the way it blends in a lot of the whole comedy and when it is funny at times, and also the way that we see things in a lot of restaurants, where you have food critics that come in, you have people that are really not liking what they're doing and things like that, and then you also get to see some things like that are in the kitchen and stuff where you get commentary about the way that there's people preparing the meals and stuff. And one of the funniest things I enjoyed was the fact that they had the little title cards that come in that basically go with each course of meal and things like that. And some of the names and things like that they go in, and they not only put in some of the ingredients in there, but also just some of the funny names they put in there really works. And when the movie does start to get a lot more intense all throughout, it does work in that it builds a lot of great tension up to where you're not really sure where it's going to go, and because it does become unpredictable as it plays along. And the way that they build up with, like, during how each course happens and stuff like that, when they're preparing the meals, it had me really on the edge, and I could really see what the movie was doing with it. And they get away with, and the violence in the movie is not very, as really just like very gory or anything like that. It's a lot more tamer than expected, but it still works in that it's been a lot more suspense and intenseful moments that do work in their own right. And so there's more I can go into detail, but I just really had a blast with this movie. It is definitely one of the best movies I've seen so far this year. And the only thing I could say, just a minor kind of nitpick, or just like maybe a little con, would be just that there's logical stuff that I kind of question about that you could really, if you really think about it, it puts it to where how all this stuff is happening, how they're getting away with certain things in the movie. They do kind of explain it in the film, but the way that it kind of puts it into perspective, you do kind of think more in your head like how all this is happening. But that's just my only little minor thing that doesn't hold the movie back for anything like that. And so, that being said, I really love The Menu a lot. And with that, I'm going to give the movie a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, those of you who have also seen The Menu, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.